Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we have got a fun one ahead of us because I have not done anything with napkins or serviettes in a long time, and I picked up a few over the weekend, and so I definitely wanted to have a play. Now, I love this one here with the birds and the butterflies. I'm in a bit of a bird phase at the moment and really enjoying it, so I am going to really cut out so that that one bird is going to be my main focal point here. Now, I actually want to show you a couple of different ways to do this using a couple of different types of ways to adhere this. Now, I think there's probably 4 or 5 ways. You can also do one with plastic, like Glad wrap, plastic wrap, and an iron. I'm not going to do that today, but I want to show you how even a simple glue stick is going to give you perfect results. Now, I have this other one here. This looks like lavender to me with a sort of, vintagey feel in the background. So make sure when you are using your napkins that you want to peel off the backing layers. All we want is the first layer of your napkin, and it may have 2 layers and it may have 3. So just whatever there is, peel them off and keep those because they are going to be super useful for other techniques for sure. So here's the part, I just sort of separate them a little bit. Sometimes you can use a wet finger, you can use a piece of sticky tape and stick it to one of the sides and then pull it away. Lots of different ways. I sometimes just crumple it between my thumb and forefinger and it kind of separates a little bit. So we have our 2 pieces here, and I'm going to, as I said, show you a couple of finished cards today. So we're going to go through the entire process. Now, the first way, which honestly is usually my go-to, however, this might have changed my mind. I have a little cup here with a tiny little bit of water in the bottom. Then this is the matte medium that I use. It's the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, not the gloss, but the matte. And then I am just going to water down this glue. Now, you can do this with, almost all liquid glues. You can just water them down a little bit, and that just makes it a whole lot easier to work with and less chance of us tearing our project, and it makes your glue go a little bit further. Now, I'm going to pop these down onto a little surface that I can shift away from my work area so that I can keep working whilst I'm waiting for it to dry. This is the Gina Innocent Pink, and I thought I would do 2 of these cards just so that you could see the different versions and what putting one on a coloured background can do to change the look of your card, that's for sure. So all I'm doing is just putting down a like a thin layer but a decent layer, and then I just pop my napkin down. Don't worry if you get wrinkles, because I promise you are the only person who is going to know there is a wrinkle there. You barely see them. But if you want to go the other way, and I quite like this, you can add it as a feature and embrace the wrinkles and add in more texture, and then you can bring it out with some ink and things once it's dry. But that's a whole nother scenario. So I have popped this down. I've also popped a light layer of the glue over top as well. Now, these napkins are delicate, of course. Once they get wet, they are going to be relatively delicate. So you don't want to overwork them once they are down and wet. When you're putting on that final layer on top, you don't want to keep going and going and going over top of it again, because you will probably end up tearing it. So just go gently and put a gentle layer on top. They're pretty good, but use a nice soft paintbrush and then get that glue layer on and you are good to go. There should be no puddles of glue, but you also want to leave nowhere dry. So make sure that this is very well sealed down onto our sheet of cardstock. Now, I'm going to pop that to the side and we are going to work on version number 2. So again, I have a little piece of cardstock. This currently is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I have my little piece of lavender. I think it's sort of a vintagey looking lavender. And then I'm just going to use a plain glue stick. Now, I actually rescued this one from the kids' playroom. They have all art supplies and things, of course, in their room because they love card making and they love crafting. Again, I'm putting on a decent layer, making sure I cover all of the sides and corners in particular. Then I kind of start at one end when I put it down and then lay my napkin down. For this version, I do not do a layer of glue over top. So you're definitely going to get a different texture on top. And then I usually peel this off, turn it upside down and let it dry that way so that nothing is going to stick, no glue from the sides. And then we wait until they are dry. Now, this is the first to dry. I'm just going to quickly tidy up these edges a little bit. Of course, they ripped a little bit when I was taking them off, and that's what we want. We want all that excess to be off and away. And then you can see two different versions here, which are beautiful. Now, just because it is the less obvious, perhaps, choice, I'm going to go with the pink background. And I have taken 2 oval dies, and I'm really focusing on this bird. This is the gorgeous little bird that I was sort of looking at the whole time, and I really love him. So I'm going to pop my first oval around there. Now I have 2 of them, and one of them is a step bigger than the other, so they are right beside each other. There's just a small gap. I have used the smaller of the 2 to cut out the original bird, so the first one here. I run it through with a little bit of mint tape on there because I know that even after that goes through my die cutting machine, I know that it's not going to tear my image or anything, which is pretty delicate. Even though we have added glue to both sides, of course, we still want to look after it. We don't want anything to go wrong at this point. Then using the bigger of the 2 ovals, I have cut out a plain white cardstock oval. In Master Layouts 2, there's this gorgeous die here that has the stitching. Now, if you don't have this, then just, whip out your trimmer and cut off the edges where you want it to be. I, of course, could absolutely do the same, but I have this die and I like the little bit of stitching detail that this gives it. So I am going to sort of, move this where I want it to be, capture the parts I want, and then run this through my die cutting machine. And that gives us this beautiful little detailed panel here. This is also going to leave, of course, a beautiful border around whichever color cardstock we use as a card base. So you can see that gorgeous stitching. And then from here, this is really, really simple to put everything together. In the same packet, the Master Layouts 2, there is also the dies that cut the plain layers here, and these are going to mat nicely with the other layers. They are meant to give a tiny little thin border. So we will cut one of those out in plain white cardstock. Then I decided to use the same innocent pink for my card base as well. Now this is not a full sheet here, this is just a partial sheet, and I am going to create this into a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base, and that is how I do all of my card bases. I cut all of them by hand. I usually pre-cut most of them, and I kind of have a session one day and sort of, if I don't feel like crafting in particular, I will just, make lots and lots of card bases and lots and lots of card fronts so that they are all ready to go. And that includes my coloured cardstock. Usually I go through and only make a handful of each one, 4 to 6 or so of each one, and I keep it in those little clear plastic envelopes. Now, when I'm putting this together, I'm adding my matte medium glue because this gives me wiggle time more than my art glitter glue, that's for sure. And I wasn't sure about the border here. I'm just not sure that it's going to help it stand out enough. And so when I'm doing this, I'm putting this all together, and you can see that when I add this pink part on here, it gives a little thicker border, and I think that's what this needs. The white really does need to be a little more prominent. It needs to stand out a little bit more. So I'm looking at this point and thinking, just doesn't look right. There's just not enough border there to break it up. So I can just pull this apart. It had just started to set up, but it was okay. So I am actually going to cut a piece of cardstock down, and I want to give it around the same border as what my oval has. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just, look roughly the same. And so that is one thing that I really love about the matte medium. It does give you the actual wiggle time to do what you need to do. And also, there was probably a good 30 seconds in there where I could change my mind. It had just started to set up, but yeah, it was a good amount for me to be able to sort it out. Then I am putting a little bit of gold thread down the very bottom here just to break up that beautiful pattern, and I have a little piece of double-sided tape on each side that is catching all of that thread. Then I'll put another piece over top so I can ensure that it is not going anywhere and not unraveling anytime soon. And then this is where I'm able to layer this down onto my innocent pink cardstock layer, and that white border makes all the difference. That is most definitely what I wanted to begin with. Then I take some foam tape and I'm going to pop up the white oval, and this has our bird image. And this is what I love the most because it carries on that image from the napkin. See the branch down there, and then this branch, and then up there, and at the top. I really, really like the continuity of that technique. And so then I'm going to add a sentiment. This is the free printable sentiments that I created. These are on my website. www.natashafoote.com. It's under the free resources tab. And here, these squares, you can cut these all out with a trimmer. You just, go straight along the top, straight along the bottom. You can cut all of these banners here with a trimmer, straight along the top, straight along the bottom. And then I just use my fussy cutting scissors to do the corners, the edges. But with this one, I'm actually going to trim down that extra outside layer just so that it's a little bit smaller. So I liked having the two double borders there so that you can decide how big you would like your sentiment to be. And this one is going to work well. So I will pop a little bit of foam tape on the back of that one and then pop this up with the gold thread coming out each side of this. So I really like this card. I think it's very delicate and really gentle for a thinking of you card. So I think that worked really well. And then the next one we're going to do, I'm going to use the lavender version that we created with the glue stick. So with this one, this is all nice and dry. I've given it plenty of time to dry. In fact, it probably had about maybe almost an hour or so. And for this one, I'm going to use my Tim Holtz trimmer just because this one does not have the layer of glue on top. So I was worried that if I used my trimmer, it may catch. Now, it may not have, absolutely, but at this point, I don't want to risk it because I've put all that time and effort into creating this piece. So using the trimmer is the best option for me. This is the mid-size one. I know there's a bigger one and I know there's a mini as well, but I just have this size. This is the comfort size. I think it's the 8.5 inch and this is plenty fine for me. I cut this one down a little bit and then for something a bit different, I'm going to use the Wild Wisteria from Gina, which is sort of no, I wouldn't call it a dark purple, maybe a mid purple, I guess. And then I create my card base. I have some matte silver cardstock. This one happens to be from Concord and 9th because I want to break up just a little bit and I didn't want to use black. So I used silver as a little bit of an alternative. Now I give my card base a really good crease and sorry about the sun popping in there. We have to take all the sun that we can get here down south. Now, for this little white piece here, I am actually going to use my corner rounder, my corner chomper, and I'm going to just round each one of these corners. Now, this cardstock is not particularly dark. Like if I wrote on this in a black or a blue pen, I feel like you would still see it. I think if you wrote on it on a white pen, that would also look cool, but just in case, because I make my cards and I never know if I'm going to be the one giving them or, someone else is going to pick it out of my stash and I don't want to take for granted that they may or may not have a white or a silver pen to use. So just because I'm going to add my little layer here of white cardstock in the center, and again, I think it's a nice finishing touch to any card as well. And then sometimes when I do this, I even just use a post-it note or, an extra little piece of cardstock held on by a piece of washi tape. And that way the recipient can actually take out that I have written on and then they can reuse the card again. So then I have my layer here of the cardstock, the silver, and I'm going to matte that up nicely. The silver just catches the light, and I really like the idea of having just something that catches the light on each card that I create. It doesn't necessarily have to be sparkly, but I do think the matte silver does a really nice job of that. Now I have this sticker book here. This is the Simple Vintage Essentials. There are 12 sheets in here, so lots of different actual sentiments. There are large letters, there are small letters, there's letters in different colors, and then there are also these little smaller sentiments as well that would go really well for art journals and scrapbooking and that sort of thing, and maybe some cards as well. Then they have all these little circles they kind of look like little buttons or something. But anyway, these were pretty cute and I thought it went really nice with the vintagey background. So I have the big U from Gina and I'm going to die cut that out 3 times. Now I've already done that just to, speed up the process here. You know how to do that. I did add some double-sided adhesive onto the back of the sheet that I die cut them from. This way makes it super easy for me to stack these up and give them that little bit of dimension. But if you don't have that, then liquid glue is going to work just as well, and you can sort of add it together, and again it gives you that nice wiggle time to adjust things and move it around so that everything is nice and even. But this double-sided adhesive does exactly the same job. It means that I can just get a little bit of dimension, but if you just want to do one layer, that's okay too. And obviously I have the word U, the Y-O-U, and I have my T ruler out because I want to make sure I get this relatively straight as I can. So I've placed my letters, sort of where I want them to go. They're not stuck down, they're just sitting there. And then I'm going to spell out the word thank. I'm going to do it backwards so that because I know I want the K centered to the right, and I want to leave as much of that lavender sort of free and not covered as I can. So I'm using my T-ruler just to, they don't have to be perfect, but just relatively straight. And then the word you is going to go underneath here. Again, I can just peel off that release paper and these are good to be stuck down. So a really, actually pretty quick and simple card to put together, but I think this one is my favorite. I really love the lavender. I really love the black stickers. I'm going to be using those. You'll see them coming up in a few videos as well. Just so simple. And yeah, so I had a whole lot of fun trying these two different techniques for the napkin technique. As I said, there are different ways to do this. By all means, this is just two of them. I do have more videos, which I will leave at the end of this video. You can click on them on different designs and a whole lot more videos on the napkin or serviette technique if you would like to try some of them out. Head on over to my website and you can get those free printable sentiments that you can download and print out as many times as you like and in as many colours as you wish. The link to that website will also be down below, but it's just natashafootecreative.com. And of course, supplies are listed below this video too. But anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know in the comments section which is your favourite, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!